Secretary of State, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to highlight some of the key findings which shaped our recommendations. As Andrew has said, our aim was to give UK Armed Forces families a voice and to shine a spotlight on the lived experiences of military personnel of all ranks and backgrounds. Our findings are supported by a large body of international research which highlights very similar issues facing armed forces families throughout the world. Our report draws on the words of the men, women and children who shared their concerns, some of which are included today as background to my comments. Armed forces families constitute a diverse population and face the same challenges and have the same expectations of family life as civilian families. And Andrew has mentioned some of the additional challenges they experience, which were the focus of our review. First, the obligations inherent in military service put operational effectiveness and commitment to duty first as the number one priority. Family life is secondary. Second, the level of required mobility and repeated periods of separation are unparalleled in civilian life. And military families live with the knowledge that their loved ones may face the kind of danger which results in the ultimate sacrifice. Nevertheless, serving personnel stressed how much they love their work and express pride in their military career, sentiments echoed by their partners and their children. No one was looking for special treatment, and many apologised for feeling compelled to share negative views. Overall, we found military families to be accepting of their obligations, resilient, stoic, largely uncomplaining, and proud. There is a sense, however, that the vital role that they play and the pressures they face are rarely acknowledged. A heartfelt plea from an army wife provided the title for our report. Along with others, she wanted someone to live in the shoes of family members to understand what it is like for them. And a detailed response from a naval family set the context for our inquiries. They pointed to the benefits of military life and also the challenges resulting from mobility and separation, many of which they felt could be avoided, and which taken together result in cumulative negative impacts. Long periods of separation which can result in loneliness, isolation, and pressures on parenting, personal relationships, and mental health. Frequent moves which disrupt children's education, the career opportunities of non-serving partners, friendships, continuity in healthcare, and the inability to plan family activities and create a stable family environment. Many of these impacts make it difficult to balance the obligations of military service with the desire for stability in family life. Serving personnel frequently miss special occasions and children's key milestones, and time apart can undermine the quality of couple relationships. While families get used to repeated periods of separation, the emotional stress often gets harder. Our review highlights just how many relationships suffer and how grateful RAF and Royal Navy couples are to be able to access confidential, independent professional counselling. This kind of support is very much valued. It is well recognised that military life also creates unique stresses for children. They have to adjust to repeated absence of their parents. They have to change schools when the family is moved, and that means making new friends. So while deployments are a normal and accepted requirement of being in the military, there is strong research evidence that the longer the time spent away, the greater the negative impact for children, and the greater the stress on family relationships. The Royal Navy experiences the longest deployments, sometimes up to 9 months, which is considered as too long, especially for children, who can be confused and upset when a parent comes home and then goes away again for long periods. ensuring that adults and children understand the emotional cycle of deployment and are supported throughout, are essential for their well-being. Families called for better support and for children and young people to have access to a confidential professional helpline. Like deployments, mobility is a feature of service life, meaning a number of changes, and it's Army families who tend to move the most frequently. Young people recounted attending up to 8 schools as commonplace, some in different countries with different curricula. This is particularly problematic for children with special educational needs and disabilities, some of whom miss months of schooling each time the family moves. Concerns have been expressed about how mobility impacts on children's educational attainment, but much more rigorous, in-depth research is needed to fully understand the impacts and the longer-term outcomes. Young people pointed out that stability in their teenage years is key to overcoming some of the difficulty experienced with changes of schools when they're younger. We know that some military children are carers for a parent with long-term health issues, and that the support needs of these children are frequently overlooked. Evidence suggests that many military children cope well with the changes they experience. They're immensely proud of having a parent in the military, and they build resilience, confidence, and adaptability. For others, mobility and parental absence impacts negatively on their well-being and results in uncertainty, low self-esteem, and anxiety. Parents talked about the emotional whiplash that children experience, and these impacts can be even more acute for children in dual-serving families, and serving mothers described the difficulty of balancing the role of mother with the demands of a military career. Teachers and parents were vocal about the importance of promoting greater continuity in education and finding better ways to supporting children both academically and emotionally. And we have made a bold, overarching recommendation for all the governments of the UK to make getting it right for service children an educational priority, and to take all the necessary steps to ensure that service children, especially those with special educational needs and disabilities, are not disadvantaged by service life. Frequent moves can make it difficult for non-serving partners to pursue their own employment. Many partners have to change jobs and are frequently told they are overqualified for what they regard as more menial jobs. And employers are sometimes reluctant to employ them because they know that the family will be moving again. And we did find examples of blatant discrimination. Families also describe the challenge of finding accessible and affordable childcare because of long waiting lists around the country. There is growing evidence that unemployment and underemployment have serious consequences for family finances, health and well-being, which can result in pressure on the serving partner to leave the military. Employment, on the other hand, increases well-being and self-esteem and the family's commitment to the military. Many partners, both male and female, were angry at the continued use of the term dependent. They want to be seen as equal partners and argue that their commitment to supporting a service partner is contributing to operational capability. Maintaining continuity in healthcare can be challenging and time-consuming when families move. Serving personnel are cared for by Defence Medical Services throughout their career, but family members have to find new doctors and new dentists and rejoin waiting lists for secondary care every time they move. We discovered that some families had not been able to see a dentist for several years, and that disruptions in healthcare are particularly detrimental for children with mental health issues. We have argued for greater awareness among health and other professionals of the distinct needs of service families, and a greater commitment to upholding the Armed Forces Covenant. We have also argued for greater partnership working and sharing of resources between military and civilian health services, and a much more holistic approach to mental health support for the whole family. So many of the struggles families describe come down to the desire just for greater stability in family life. A pernicious aspect of service life is the loneliness felt by some non-serving partners because of the moves and deployments. Loneliness and social isolation can cause significant mental stress and relationships to break down. Military welfare staff told us that intimate partner violence is an increasing concern. And although families did not mention domestic abuse as a specific issue, several referred to their serving partners' anger and rage, especially after deployment. The issue which caused the most distress, however, was the state of service family accommodation. Everyone needs a place called home, and while military families have traditionally lived in military housing, this pattern is changing. Increasing numbers are choosing to make their home away from a military base in order to create more stability. Nevertheless, we received plenty of evidence of poor maintenance on every visit and in most responses to the call for evidence. The problems are well known and publicly documented. Living in poorly maintained houses affects relationships, the quality of family life, is detrimental to morale, and ultimately to the work commitment of the serving partner. Poor housing makes families feel undervalued and unappreciated. So we have made a number of recommendations relating to housing, and we are pleased that they are being taken seriously. The lack of work-life balance, the constant churn in family life, and the lack of support can so easily leave partners feeling second best. The support offered to serving families tends to be reactive rather than proactive. And as Andrew mentioned, there is a strong charitable support sector offering a variety of help. But there remains considerable confusion among families as to where to go and how to seek support, and stigma about doing so. As families choose to live away from military bases, it is becoming more difficult for welfare and other support to be offered by the military. So our report calls for greater integration and collaboration and a much more proactive approach to providing comprehensive support across all three services. Partnership programs that increase resilience and build stronger families are essential to well-being. Research has shown that when families are cared for, service personnel are able to concentrate on their work and are more likely to stay in the military. Greater understanding of the specific pressures on service families is critical to providing the appropriate support and to breaking down barriers to seeking help. Our report provides evidence that questions whether the frequency and length of deployments and the current pattern of moving service personnel every 2 or 3 years, particularly in the Army and the RAF, is sustainable in the 21st century, and whether it is absolutely necessary to maintain operational capability. A revised model, which enables greater stability, would alleviate many of the challenges which cause such distress and threaten retention. We have called for a culture change within the armed forces to fully recognise and take account of the needs of partners and children when decisions are taken about mobility. Meanwhile, steps must be taken to ensure that families feel valued. It's not about special treatment, but about recognition and respect. We have pointed to the huge importance of small acts of kindness alongside saying thank you. reaching out, welcoming families when they move, offering friendship, all help people to feel valued. And more than anything, families want the military and the Ministry of Defence to communicate directly with them and not just via the serving partner. Messages sent by the serving partner may well be lost in translation if they arrive at all, and this results in families feeling powerless and ignored. We believe that direct communication with families could be easily solved, and we have suggested how it can be achieved. In our view, the Armed Forces Covenant and the Armed Forces Family Strategy have central roles to play in recognising the sacrifices military families make, ensuring that they are recognised, respected, valued and supported in their local communities as well as on military bases. We have asked the Prime Minister to spearhead a change of culture to ensure that the UK population appreciates the role played by its armed forces and values the support their families give them. Our recommendations, then, are designed to ensure that the future family strategy strives for greater stability in family life, ensures more proactive, joined-up support, values the contributions families make and celebrates the work of the armed forces, takes a family-centred approach to through-life support, strengthens the Armed Forces Covenant, and promotes small acts of kindness at every opportunity. It seems appropriate to end with a comment from a non-serving partner. She said to us, "Thank you for thinking of service families. It is really wonderful to know that you are investing time and consideration into this. We now encourage others to take note of the evidence and to invest time, consideration and commitment to implementing our recommendations. Thank you very much."